Welcome back, everybody, to Soccer Wise. Very crucial. I'll just start with that one right there so I don't have to make up one of my own. We have arrived. MLS 2026 season kickoff is around the corner. We've got a massive week of CCC action as well. We are into the best time of the year. Doyle, it is a time of hope for all fans everywhere. It is the last week where everyone's in first place. And I don't know, there's probably 8 to 12 Clubs fans who are feeling the best they're going to be feeling over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it really a time of hope in DC or Kansas City?
Don't do it to them off the top. Tough.
I mean, it's like we all know it. We've all seen it. That said, all right. I'm going to walk it back immediately.
Yeah, because you're going to say you're low key a little interested in DC.
DC's a little bit interesting, right?
See?
Right? I don't love pressing teams, but it looks like they're going to be a 4-4-2 pressing system, and they have, two forwards who kind of fit together. They are at a massive talent deficit in central midfield, but they've done some stuff. All right, Dr. Soget.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention.
They will be a fantastic pressing team until they hire Wayne Rooney, because when he's available, he's available. And then we'll reshift organization, we'll fire a couple GMs, and then we'll come back around in about 3 or 4 years. But for today, they are tied for first place in the Eastern Conference in MLS, and that is something worth enjoying. It's going to be a big weekend of action. So for anyone who hasn't looked, I hadn't actually really looked for a while. A lot more time windows every weekend of games. There's an early Saturday game, which will be weekly, which will be happening. I believe Michele Giannone will be on the preview and sideline of that game.
The legend.
Yeah, so you can always tune in Spanish for that one. And then I think our own Andrew Wiebe, friend, I don't know what we're calling him, will be on Saturday nights, a big primetime game. And then there's at least 2 Sunday windows every week. But some weeks have more windows than that, including a Saturday afternoon game. And because of that, some of these night windows are not 37 matches at the same time that you can't consume because the games are a little more spread out. There's, I think, some 7:30 windows with just 2 games, some 10:30 windows as well. So there's going to be a lot more watching, which is kind of what I enjoy about having a sports league and watching the games. So that part I'm genuinely excited about. And that will obviously all kick off on Saturday. We're going to do a big preview game by game, I think, on Thursday, to dig into everything we'll see this weekend, and it will give us a chance to talk maybe about some teams that we don't mention in here as deeply, and give some quick thoughts. If you haven't already, subscribe to Matt Doyle's Ghost newsletter. I'm getting my wording right so I get there.
Yeah.
Give everyone the pitch real quick.
Tacticsfreezone.com. It's everything that I've been doing the past 15 years for MLS soccer. I just picked it up and I moved it to my own newsletter. It is a hassle-free subscription. You just type your email in and you should get an email back confirming your subscription right away. There are 4 tiers. The lowest tier is free. There's going to be 2 free columns a week. One will be the power rankings and one will be sort of a weekly roundup. And then 3 paid tiers. The Sunday column that I've been writing for 15 years. Sorry, folks, that's paid. And then there'll be another midweek sort of tent pole column that I am already panicking and scrambling over, like, oh God, what am I going to write? But that'll be probably stuff like U.S. national team depth chart or tactical breakdown, stuff like that. It's gone really well. So if you have subscribed already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And David knows this feeling of like suddenly you're unemployed and oh shit, what is happening?
Oh no, everyone's gonna support me. Well, I gotta actually experience that first before I can pay for anything.
Right. But the outpouring has taken a lot of the sting out of what was a pretty brutal start to February. And here we are, finally back doing a regular podcast again, which I'm cheesing a little bit. You could see that I'm genuinely happy to be talking to David Goss.
The part that I'm most excited about is I believe we have scheduled in for Soccer Wise. We will do a public shaming of people based off how much they are subscribed.
We will not do
Doyle.
that. No, we will not do that. We will not do that.
And the shaming will start with Andrew Wiebe and Kalen Carr. So know that you are on watch as of now. No, it is the place to go read. If you've read Doyle's work at all over the last 15 years, as he described, you know it's what you want. It is the only person who can cover this league from start to finish, top to bottom, the way he does. So go subscribe, get on that. I will throw in, if you're looking for some preview action, we have a number of videos that we have done. Some of them have already come out as podcasts. Some we're still working on. You can go to our YouTube page to watch all of them individually with a lot of local podcasters in every single market talking about their teams. I learn a ton from those. I think even on some of the storylines I already know, just hearing the angle that they're taking or the conversation that's going on in the market really can shift from the people. And you know, I'm a sports fan. I listen to Zach Lowe, but I watch the Knicks and I'm like, come on, that's not the way it is. So I get it. We don't hit everything correctly. I would also recommend going and following all these people on Blue Sky, because I think as the season starts and as Blue Sky has really exploded as the place to talk about sports in B, you want to follow all these accounts so that you're sucked into the conversation and you know what's going on. I'd also like to throw a promo to American Soccer Analysis, who's done, as they've done every year, incredible season previews. Even if you don't get to them this week, they're worth reading because they really set, one, how people are looking at the sport and in this league, and then sort of the parameters that teams are operating in, and then go to Backheel. Joe Lowry does it as well as anyone else.
All 30 previews himself.
Yes.
I mean, 40,000 words, in depth on every single team. I'm in awe of the work he put into that. Just a defend. Good job by Joe.
Good job by Joe. So we love Joe here on Soccerwise. Had him on a couple weeks ago. Go read those and subscribe there as well. We've got CCC kicking off. I'm just going to call it CCL as I oscillate between the time. I am very excited for the first game, which is tonight in Ottawa. Nashville facing off against Ottawa. I believe it's now called Hamilton Stadium, but I call it Tim Hortons Field because it's, you know, if your mom names you Tim Hortons Field, that's what I go with. I believe I was trying to get my weather app up. I believe the expectation is that will be 31 degrees at kickoff in general in Ottawa. So that is 8 p.m. tonight. Yes, 31 degrees going down to 25. Everyone else is in Trinidad and Tobago, the Dominican, Panama, and Nashville, baby, gets the trip up north. So I'm really excited for that game. We haven't seen a lot of CPL MLS that's not Canadian Championship crossover. So that will be fun as well. And then everyone else in MLS starts playing on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, we've got Philly, LAFC, a bunch of other teams as well across.
I think the Galaxy are Thursday, right? Yeah.
Yes. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
So all those games are going to be on. We will, of course, be on Blue Sky hanging out through all of those. And then we get into the season. I wasn't going to leave a bunch of time for us to talk about Reed Baker Whiting, unless you want to talk about Reed Baker
I will say Nashville's had a great offseason. Like Nashville, like this is a buy low opportunity on a kid who has talent, who like the biggest position in need that I identified for Nashville, 2 weeks ago when I was writing for my former website was sort of an error at either fullback because Andy Nahar and Daniel Lovitz are both irreplaceable and inimitable. Like you can't replicate what they do. And the backup fullbacks on that roster are just different types of players. And Reed Baker Whiting is 20 and he hasn't won the job for Seattle. But he has kind of the same skill set as Andy Nahar. I don't think he's as good as Andy Nahar is or was even as 20, but like he's on a really he's a really promising player.
Yeah.
This is exactly what we talked about on Soccer Wiser, where it's like, okay, it's a youth national team guy. There's value to be found here. Nashville isn't yet producing guys like that out of their academy, so you could buy low on someone. And for Seattle, it's like, okay, at some point, like you have to move these guys along either into starting roles or do right by them and put them in a position where they can get more minutes, make a little bit of money, and clear the path for the next round of academy products.
It's I agree with everything you said. I will also say the transfer out of Johnny Perez for the number they got and then bringing in a player who I think I think has a higher ceiling for less. And then you also still have the potential to sell him going forward. It's good business, and it shows right now. I think Mike Jacobs has extended what this club does well in some of the international signings they've made. but also shows that at their core, they're still doing what they did best originally, which was these moves around the edges and knowing the league and knowing sort of the math that's going there. It goes on top of them giving BJ Callahan a contract extension, which is huge for this club because he has reset the DNA of the team. I'm sure you're talking to the same people that I am. People are really passionate about working with him, working for him. The local media enjoys covering him. Like, they say it has been just a breath of fresh air on top of the success on the field that they've had. And with his national team background, as odd and whatever it is, that's a guy who's going to be attractive going forward. So I think to have him say, this is where I want to be, and this is, build this around me because I'm going to be a part of this for a while, I think is really big for this club. So a huge offseason for Nashville, a big week. They will come up a couple times, I think, in our conversation. We're going to go through a bunch of the awards that will be given away this season as a bit of a way to preview and talk about it. And then we're going to talk some generic team conversations that we came up with to dig into some teams overall. The top of any one of these convos would be MVP and Golden Boot. Is a little less interesting when you come to the MLS side. Do you have an MVP that's not Lionel Messi?
I think the only other one with a legitimate chance is Son.
Yeah.
If it's not, if Messi gets hurt and plays 1,200 minutes, Son is like a 85% favorite or something like that, because he's going to have the numbers, and LAFC is going to be one of the 3 best teams. In fact, if Messi gets hurt, LAFC, I think, becomes the Supporter Shield favorites, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, there's a world where Vancouver end up on 75 points and Thomas Mueller has 18 goals and 23 assists, and maybe it's Thomas Mueller. And then beyond that, you're getting down to, should we do like MVP pie?
Well,
like 1% is like Evander leads Cincinnati to a points record, or
I think Hani, I think Hani has a huge one because he's already won it, and therefore, if Nashville is good, without watching, people will say, "Oh, Hani's got a shot." So if Nashville wins a Shield, I think Hani's going to win it, whether he's the reason they win it or he's the best player on the team week in and week out or whatnot. That's my guess.
So I think Messi's going to win it just because of the way people vote.
Yeah.
He
could play 12 games and he could
be like, oh, well, Messi's the best player. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not the award. The award is most valuable player. And like, okay, I was about to say, I hate to be, to get into semantics like that, but I love to get into semantics like that.
I rolled my eyes because I find that one of the hardest conversations we have is valuable player and like deciphering what that, because Rodrigo De Paul's not playing for any other team for cheap. Neither is Sergio Reguilon. So is therefore Messi the most valuable player because he's the best GM? He's the best recruiting piece. Like,
right.
There's a million ways to go about that, but you are right in which you could come down to the end of the season, because there's also a world that Messi doesn't play as much as we think, and Inter Miami are fantastic, or win the Shield without him being on the field a ton because they just signed Bertarame. They already have the team built in.
But that's exactly what happened in 2024.
Right.
He played like 1,500 minutes in 2024. They set the single season points record, won the Shield, obviously, and like they had a better points per game
when he wasn't there. Yeah.
When he wasn't on the field, and everybody was like, "Yeah, he's the MVP." Like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's, I think, most of the names in that MVP conversation. On the Golden Boot side, it's more interesting. Messi could win it. Clearly, I picked him first in the Golden Boot draft, which we did last week. There are some other interesting names here, though, as well. One of the things with Messi is, with Bertarame signed, he might play a little bit less close to goal. I don't know how much that really matters. The amount of goals this guy has scored, being the second runner, the late pullback. Obviously, Alba's not there, but it should still all exist. Will be pretty high for him. There's a couple other obvious names. All of them are kind of the same ones we said in the MVP conversation. The one I would add here is Denny, gotcha, Buanga, who is my pick to win this. My thought process is I think LAFC are going to be rampant in the way the ways they were rampant. And I don't know how to calculate in the World Cup effect on, okay, going into it towards the end. I don't think Sun sits out games, but what's the focus? What's the impact? If the team's doing well, where do you sit him? Where do you not? And then coming out of that emotional high of, I don't know, if South Korea wins 2 knockout games, and now that's become his life, and it's his life achievement and all of this. I don't know what the effect coming out of that is, where, let's be real, Buanga's going to play 4,200 minutes this year because that's what he does. Now, I know there's the wrinkle, which is the Brazilian offers and all of that, but I felt safer going with Buanga's there for the full year and does what he does best than Son coming around a World Cup is able to perform for 32 games at his highest level.
I think that is really well put and really well thought out. My only pushback is I do think there's going to be an evolution of the game model. I think they're going to play more on the front foot, more
Mm-hmm.
in possession, and Bawanga is very good to excellent at scoring goals in that game state for a winger. He is all-time great as a goal scorer on the break. And if they're playing less on the break, I just think that there's going to be a less dominant version of Denny Bouanga. It's still probably like 18 goals. But I do think it's going to tilt a little more towards Son. And I don't know, like I'm not as concerned about the emotional drop off
Mm-hmm.
after the World Cup for Son because it, I mean the he's a maniac. He's he's like a pro's pro
Yeah,
on
for
every
sure.
level. And um
Hence hitting the ground running at LAFC last year.
exactly.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of like scoring goals and like drawing penalties in Chicago with like a sacrificial off ball run um but like taking it really seriously off the field as well and like understanding there's a significant opportunity here. So I Son is my pick. um I like Surridge.
Yeah.
He scored a ton last year. Actually underperformed his XG. Shout out Tom. Um, and he's got another like one. They added one of the best chance creators in the league
Yeah.
to the attack. I I just think that he's gonna eat like 25 goals seems very possible. Brian White, 16 goals in 1,700 minutes last year, and will have a full year of playing with Thomas Mueller. Across all competitions, I think he has like 24 goals in 20. So it's like, okay, if he plays a ton, but that's a load bearing if with Brian
Yeah.
White. Like he doesn't, he's not an Iron Man.
A couple of the Petar Musa, obviously, I'm going to throw in here. It seems right now the setup of the team will require a little bit of creativity from him. That will pull him from goals. So maybe there's a couple easier goals, tap in type stuff.
I'm going to interrupt you. Have you gotten any like insider scouting reports on the new Uruguayan? And not a DP.
Valentine?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, not Valiente. Not a DP, not technically wearing a number 10, but like seems kind of
Yeah.
10-y. I don't know.
Yeah, but he got signed this week. How long
Right.
does that take? And then
Right.
they have to entrust him. They have to reshape what they do a little bit for him to fit into it. And in all of that time, you were the fourth best team in the league with Petar Musa dropping in as your 10 last year. How bold is Eric Quill to move to it quickly, I think. And we're doing our Dallas preview in a little bit. So I'm definitely going to ask these questions and see if we can dig into it. But either way, he's going to be around this conversation. One of the ones I didn't know where to put, and I said it at the Golden Boot draft, is Timo Werner. Like, the team created chances last year. Bruce's team score goals. I still have so many unknowns, but like, he's not going to a World Cup. If this guy starts to pour it in and they create the right chances for him, he could score 20 to 25 goals, and that might be the number this year.
Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like a little Juan Pablo Angeli, where I think Juan Pablo came over a little bit older. I think he was like 31, but he hadn't been a consistent goal scorer for a few years in Europe. And when he came, going all the way back to 2007, I'm being ridiculous.
Baby, what a year to be alive!
But he could not stop scoring in MLS. That it was absolutely amazing the way he came in and just was unstoppable. And like, I don't know, it feels like that could happen with Timo Werner. Like, okay, I'm in a comfortable position. I think that the Quakes are going to go out and get another DP center forward. It's not going to happen, I don't think, before the game this weekend. But like that is what they're targeting with their second DP. And like, if it's an Adam Buksa type for Timo Werner to run off of, like that's where his best years came. And the other thing is Nico Shakaris looks like he won the starting number 10 job, at least for now. Played there all preseason, did great creating chances. I think he scored a goal in their finale against NYCFC. So like I would be surprised if Timo Werner scored more than like 16, 17 goals. But I wouldn't be shocked, right? It's just it's probably going to take 25 or 26 to win the Golden Boot,
Yeah.
and that would be shocking.
Yeah. I have Dwan Jones on my fullback of the year list, like a
Hell
year to
yeah.
be settled, play with the same team, play for Bruce,
Yep.
and then Timo Werner on the end of some of that stuff. Even if it's Preston Judd on the end of that stuff, some of that stuff, I think he's
Preston Judd was good last year.
yeah, and I think he's perfect too. I can make that final run, stab to the near post. Timo Werner's floating on the far post, and Dwan Jones has the license as a wingback to stay high up the field. I want to throw Kuipers in this combo as well. Pretty much every single one of these has a caveat. Kuipers is obviously, if they sign Lewandowski, he either moves or isn't playing as much. But I just can't see a world where I think Bamba will be better, even if Zinkernagel falls off a little. I think there's still production. I like the fullbacks there, and I love the addition of Robin Ludd. So in all of that calculation, I have to throw him in the Golden Boot race. It will be exciting when it's none of the people I just named. I just named like
Right.
15 options, and it will be none of them. Okay.
Seymour Reed versus Ryan Alumi for the Golden Boot. That's the
love-
future we want.
I would love that. Threw me off. So I was about to start naming 15 other young players. I was like, oh, we actually have young player. Let's go there right now then. Let's go to young player of the year. It's one of our favorite conversations here on Soccer Wise. Can you tell me the birthday cutoff for this thing and what you have to be?
I think it's January 1st, 2004 birthday or later, right? So
Okay.
it's 22 or younger.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
January-
22 it's not 22 under 22,
No,
right?
it's not, of course.
It's 22 or younger.
So January 1st of 2004.
Yeah.
So that
Yep.
makes Owen Wolf ineligible because he's December 30th, 2004.
No. December 30th, 2004 happens after January 1st, 2004.
Oh,
Much,
after is the
much-
good thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the good one.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
call. Yes.
Yeah.
Now that I'm locked in, Owen Wolf, I would
Okay.
say, is probably one of the headliners for this one. Where did you go with this?
If he stays healthy and San Diego are as good as we think they're going to be, I don't see how Manadua doesn't win this.
Okay.
He's a $15 million center back and he's 20.
Yeah.
He could end up being young player of the year, he could end up being defender of the year, and he could be the record outbound sale for MLS defenders.
Okay.
That's, and I love Owen Wolf, Idam Toklamati, who I forgot to mention in my my column. Chakiris could do it. Like if he has 7 goals and 14 assists, which is I think not out of the realm of like there are a lot. Lethu Makanya was excellent last year for Philly. He's still eligible. Like there's a lot of really, really good players who are eligible for this. Manudua is a level above them.
Yeah. The other names I had down, but I agree with you. I have Matteo Silvetti. I
Yep.
thought he was awesome last year. I think he can play all 3 spots in the attack. That's not the 10. And so I think whoever's out, he will be playing there. I think he could score a ton of goals. Owen Wolf, obviously, as I said, all the names you said. I would throw in Peyton Miller, although I don't know that he's going to play in MLS for the full year because of the offers that are coming in and the potential he has. But he's a game changer, and I think that will pop for people. And the other one's Johnny Shore. Like, there's a chance. You never know, unfortunately, what's going to happen with Keaton Parks. You have a bunch of injuries in central midfield already. So if he plays a bulk of minutes as a center mid for a legitimately top 4 Eastern Conference team at his age, I think that's going to elevate him up the conversation. So I think that could be a really big one. In the chat, we've got David Martinez, which I think we've just been waiting for that one for 2 years now. So if it happens, great. And yeah, I think there's a lot of names you can throw in here, which is why this is one of the fun conversations to have in MLS right now. But those, I think, are the ones we're going to lean on, besides, of course, Snyder Brunel winning MVP for the season.
You know who was not in this conversation 12 months ago? Alex Freeman. So
Yeah.
things can change really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Just everybody bear that in mind. And don't hold it against us when we're wrong.
I'm okay if you hold it against me. I appreciate
That's fine.
being trash every once in a while. Let's go defensive here. So we've got defensive player of the year and goalkeeper of the year. I think on goalkeeper of the year, the front runner is going to be Dane St. Clair. can you give me a strong argument for someone else?
I think that he's not going to have as much to do,
Hmm.
right? So I think that'll be that'll hurt his case. And then you look at guys like Matt Freeze isn't going to be that busy, but probably busier than Dane St. Clair, and he's going to get a lot of pub because
Yeah.
he's the U.S. #1 during a World Cup year. Matt Turner, if Matt Turner bounces back and um, starts looking like the old Matt Turner who played every week, then he'll be the best shot stopper in the league, and that is something that people won't ignore. And then uh, Christian Kalina, like he was not as consistent last year as he was in 2024, but for that 10-game run, he was otherworldly, and we know he can do that for 34 games. And the question for my pick, Michael Collodi for FC Dallas, is can he do it for 34 games? Because he was the best keeper in the league final 10 games of last year, and then did really well in the playoffs as well, even as FC Dallas were getting shelled. And he has won the starting job fully for FC Dallas. And Martin Paz has been sold. Like this is it. Like it is his job. He earned it. He really, really looked good. So I'm going with a dark horse. That's my pick.
What a crazy world we live in that the backup goalkeeper from Dallas gets sold to Ajax. I know he's Dutch and like it makes sense, but it's just like one of those things when it happened, I was like, this feels big, but it wasn't big because he doesn't really matter for the team. I think that argument makes a ton of sense. I think the Dane one is interesting of like, we think the team will be better, so therefore he'll have less to do. He's also a showman and they will be on prime time all the time. And I think some of that will come out. I think the Matt Freeze argument is super interesting as well. Of obviously you're not supposed to vote on national team stuff, but if he's the starter for the first 6 months, like that's all people will talk about, and so people will be tuned into all of that. And then on the Dallas side, I'm going to go Dallas on Defensive Player of the Year, so I can't go goalkeeper as well. It's just not allowed. The other name I want to throw in there is Roman Berkey. Like St. Louis improved up the spine, center backs and Daniel Edelman. So I think they'll be better if they press high and create chances, and that's their game model. And Berkey is good off his line and is a difference maker as a shot stopper. I think there's a world in which if St. Louis is in a playoff race, he might be the most valuable player at the goalkeeper position. And if someone wants to sneak that debate in, and he obviously is a name, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up there. He hasn't been for the last year and a half, but that team was a mess. So I'm fascinated to see how he affects two young center backs and a group that's going to basically be built on their defensive stability, but also needing to press high to create chances. And that gives you space to show how good you are. I mean, for Columbus, they've had goalkeepers and goalkeeper of the year conversations who have been inconsistent. Berkey would be an improvement on all of that. And if it's very obvious with the way they play, I think there's a chance he ends up in this conversation by the end of this year.
That
Uh,
took me
yeah.
completely by surprise. I did not expect a St. Louis mention in any way. So
I got you.
Yeah.
Let's go Defender of the Year. I teased it a little bit there. I think, again, with Dallas, with the way they're set up, I think Urguide could be the most important defender, and I think he could be one of the best if he is playing in a three-man backline flanked by two natural fullbacks who have to step in to help attack and wingbacks that have to play up the high up the field to create chances. You will see what we saw last year, which was elite over the top, elite 1v1, and super calm in possession. And I think he'll be there for the full year. I don't know that any defense is built around one player as much as it is him. And if he shines and this team shines, it will be very obvious over the course of the season.
That's a good shout. I don't think I had put enough thought into Urguide as a candidate for this one, but it does actually make sense. He was very good last year.
In year one.
Yeah, in year one for a team that was like constantly under construction. And to be fair, they still kind of have that a little bit.
Yes.
They feel a little constantly under construction or not. Like, please make some more moves. I just don't know if they're going to be good enough, right? If you look at it, Defender of the Year now tends to come from a team that finishes like top 3 in the conference
Yeah.
every year, and like Tristan Blackman was really good last year. I didn't think he was defender of the year, but the Caps were awesome. Therefore, he got a lot of whereas the year before it was Steven Moreira who absolutely deserved it and got my and you go on
Yeah.
down the list. So I tend to think Mikael, like
Yeah.
if Miami passed the eye test defensively in a way that they didn't last year for most of the season, right until the very end, I think Mikael will rightly or wrongly get a ton of credit for that. So I think he could have narrative going there. I expect Seattle's defense to bounce back, and I think Jackson Reagan will be the obvious candidate if they do so. And then I'm going to go back to San Diego with Dua. Last year, I voted for Michael Boxall because Minnesota's defense was very good, but also Boxall was intrinsic to the way they play. Like they could not play their style if they didn't have Michael Boxall in that defense. It's the same with San Diego. Their defense is going to be very good, and also they could not play that style that effectively if they didn't have Manu Dua in central defense. I think he's good enough to win Young Player and Defender of the Year.
Okay. Let's go. Let's stick on the back line then. Let's go to fullback.
Do you have any pushback on this? Am I too high on Manu Dua?
No, I don't think so. I think we get really excited sometimes about a guy year one, and then it's like, okay, now the expectation's on your shoulder. Can you organize the back line? I also think San Diego will have some drop off, not maybe as much as I expected. And I don't know what that will look like. And you throw that all on top of a little bit of goalkeeping questions and Annabelle Godoy going to a World Cup. And the amount, I mean, we ask every year when he's done and when the legs will run out, and they seem incapable of doing so. So I think that the year will look harder for him than last year did when he came in, and that will make things a little worse. I voted Mikael for Defender of the Year when he was at Houston. I'm pretty sure. I know I had him best 11. So it'd be crazy if Inter Miami won the Shield and he looked equally as good, if not better, for being a little bit more mature. And I didn't end up voting for him again.
Right.
But I was trying to lean away from that to an extent. I don't think you're crazy for a guy in Manu Dua who is comfortable in possession with both feet, can defend in space, and like fully understands the system he plays in. Like,
so
even,
calling him comfortable in possession is like the understatement of the century.
The way he steps in when teams are stretched and he reads the gap of, okay, so Bombino's gone high. You've chased him. You're chasing our attackers into space. The move here is for me to dribble through at least break the first line of pressure. And then at that point, things will open up. He's super comfortable doing that. And then one of the things that San Diego does well is when you start to pack in, they hit that early cross first time off the two wings, and he crashes as well as any center back into the run of play there, where like he will get goals on top of just set piece plays. No, I think you're fair in being excited about him and him being the front runner for most of these awards. On top of the fact that San Diego is going to promote all of that, like not just in terms of like PR, but like they're going to play him. They're going to talk about how much he's worth. Like that is the thing they are built on. And he should fit in with all of that, which takes us to fullback, by the way. I think Luca Bombino will be in the young player convo if he has a year like he did last year, and he will get to play the full year and be comfortable and all of that. This one's hard for me with what we're doing wingback versus fullback, because I think most of the wingbacks will win it because they will have more effect. They'll play higher up the field. They'll affect the game even more. I said DeJuan Jones, a front runner for me if we're allowing the wingbacks to be a part of it. I would also throw both the New England guys in there. I think Feingold was awesome last year. And as I said, I think Peyton Miller's like the next Alex Freeman, at least, if that's the conversation we're having.
My issue with that is both those guys played as wingbacks last year, and they're going to be fullbacks this year because it looks like a 4-2-3-1. And I'm worried that playing deeper and having more defensive responsibilities. And look, if you talk to pros, you talk to guys who have done the jobs, they'll tell you fullback is. If you talk to David Goss after Bensing, they'll tell you fullback is a much more complicated position than wingback. Wingback is very linear. Like you have to be.
Your job is to go in that direction, and we got the rest for you.
Yeah. Whereas you have to be aware of a lot more as a fullback, timing your overlap when you go in that direction. The space you're leaving behind you is more critical just because of the nature of a 4 versus a 5. Um, Both Feingold and Peyton Miller are attackers first, and there aren't a lot of teams in MLS or anywhere in the world that play with two attack
Hmm.
first fullbacks in a 4. Um, so I'm kind of bullish on the Revs overall. They're one of my like dark horse league
Yeah.
pass, fun teams to watch. But also, there's a very obvious way where this could kind of fall apart.
Yeah. Do you have, so what's your list of names that you'd put to start?
Let me open up my
Your own article on Tactics
my own
3.
article. Yeah, give
Okay,
me
let
some.
me throw a couple names out there while you're doing that. I think Eddie Aracampo is an obvious one. He was a game
Mhm.
changer for Vancouver last year. He should have been in the I mean, we make up this award, so we make this award up, right? This is not
Yeah,
one that anyone actually gives. I'm now trying to mix between NWSL and MLS because NWSL has added some position awards so more people can get involved. So feel free to correct me at any time. Like I know you've been very hesitant to do in the past, but feel free to open that up. That's an obvious one. Alex Roldan's an obvious one. Like
yeah,
if Seattle is competitive and good, he's a massive part of it. I mentioned DeJuan Jones. Those are like the three that jumped out to me. I do want to take a second before you say your names. What I don't know that I've actually really contextualized what the impact of losing Kai Wagner will be for Philadelphia. And I'm not saying his replacement will win it. I'm saying how big of a drop off will this be for the Philadelphia Union to have lost a player who is such an outlier at his position and clearly fit what they did?
yeah. He was their best chance creator, their primary chance creator for like the
Insane.
past 5 years. Just it. I don't think you can go like for like. You can't get that lucky again. Um, And I think part of it, like actually mentioned Frankie Westfield in the column. Now that I reread
Oh,
it
there
and
we
actually
go.
remember, because it's like okay, like we saw with the U20s and at times with the Union that Westfield's really, really good getting forward. Like not quite Kai Wagner level good, but like really good and on a trajectory that's not linear.
Hmm.
Um, and Okay, so do you like Philly were tilted left a little bit last year? Well, with Kai Wagner gone, no official replacement is it? Do you just tilt right and say, all that freedom Kai had last year, Frankie,
Yeah.
you have that now.
Right.
You get forward, and Philly's going to be good again this year. I don't think they're going to win the Shield, but they're going to be good. And Frankie Westfield has a chance to be a huge part of that, both in providing the final pass and also like he has a knack for getting into the box. So he's a guy I mentioned. Andrew Gutman, perpetually underrated, underappreciated. He's a guy I mentioned, and I think there might actually be more creative burden on his shoulders this
Hmm.
year, because with no Brian Gutierrez and Andre Franco out until at least midseason, he's going to have to get forward, and
Yeah.
he does that really, really well. But I actually went with for my prediction. I went with Andy Nahar, and I'm whistling past the graveyard a little bit
I
here
was
because
gonna say
he's never stayed healthy
back to
at all.
back
Like
years would be a miracle.
he had his healthiest year last year at age 32. It's like it just doesn't seem likely, but like please give me 2500 minutes of that this year because he's so good and he's so much fun and Nashville's going to be so good and fun and they're kind of shifting their game model a little bit, just like marginally in a way that really suits him. They're going to try to be a little bit more dominant in possession and like he's so like it's like having another playmaker out there, another guy who's so happy to get on the ball in those spots. So fingers crossed for Nashville fans that I'm correct. But there's a lot of good ones, and then there's a question of like, does Anthony Marcanic count
Yeah.
as like
The and
I think he kind of does, whereas Ender Echenike probably doesn't, and
I
it's like
love
okay,
Ekenike.
yeah,
I'm so excited for his season. The other then names that I thought about, which doesn't really fit this though, is I think Reggie Cannon will play a little bit of both. Like I think he will be third center back at times for this, whether it's as a backup for the two or if they switch formation at all. And I think you'll see his value, which was he was one of the better players as a third center back at times last year, as a fullback at times. And so then those names are different than Marcanic scoring 7 goals or whatever it is on the two ends of the spectrum. But this is going to be a fun one, I think, when we come back to it towards the end of the year or midway through the year to refresh and talk about where we stand. Okay, let's stay on the player side before we have some of the other awards that we have to do. Let's go to midfielder. So this is the one I believe I got wrong, which is we've done the 6 in the past, and NWSL has brought in midfielder of the year. But it was sort of a way to listen. All the MVP conversations are with the 10, and like shifting away from that, who is the best midfielder in the league. And so trying to change that conversation also lets you bring in 8s a little more, a Sebastian Berhalter of the world, if he could stay healthy, a Keaton Parks of the world. I think, do you see the effect here of a David Ajala, or is it just Rodrigo de Paul because he's Rodrigo de Paul? Like, this is where I think you could have a lot of those conversations. Where would you go with this one on first hearing it about 7 seconds before we started?
Yeah, so I kept it to 6s in my column, and I kind of wish cast Steven Eustachio into that because he's an excellent player. Yeah. And I guess maybe I kind of poo-pooed it a little bit when the signing was first announced, but I shouldn't have done that. Like he's a really excellent player, and he has the chance to meaningfully change the way LAFC, which is going to be one of the best teams in the world, in the league rather, to meaningfully change the way that they play. And I think that matters. Like, certainly that's the type of stuff that losers like us talk about a lot. And so like that's really big. But if it's like, man, I think if we're bringing in 8s, I think that Miami's going to win the Supporter Shield, and Rodrigo de Paul is probably going to play. If that's the case, he's probably going to play 2,500 minutes for a team that collects 75 points and trophy. And it would be surprising if he's not one of, if not the very first name mentioned among 6s and 8s in this league.
Yeah. The thing that I talked about, I think, with Joe on this show, right when Eustachio signed, is how good Eustachio is, though, at getting you out quickly if he wants to, and how accurate he is. That's where it's like, okay, if you push numbers high and you turn it over, he's going to get Son and Bouanga into transition. He doesn't need to knock it around and slowly progress up the field. He can do it. He's great at it. That's where he will help this team the most, is the ability to pick the lock a little and sort of dictate. But there's still probably 3 to 5 assists in there of early balls from him that are hit the exact way you want to, outside of the foot, cross field, through the channel, like all this type of stuff that he can do that very few people can do. So I think Eustachio makes a lot of sense. The question would be, does he play a full season in this league, and does he play a full season with this team? I'm really excited for what Robin Ludd's going to bring to Chicago. So that's one where I don't think you'd consider him a pure 10, but he will be in that mix.
He's going to be like a free 8, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be like the Kevin De Bruyne role, which is like much more of an attacking role than a defensive role, you know?
And he might sort of line up there at times, so it might look a little different. But that's one as well. I think there's a few different ways you could go with this one. One of the ones I'm fascinated about is I believe the reports are that Artur is injured right now to start. Jack McGlynn doesn't cover a lot of space. So if this Buzak guy comes in and plays well and like does the job and Houston's good, it might be very obvious that this guy is a game changer for this team, because it feels like there is a lot of gaps in central midfield for Houston, and someone's going to have to cover them, and bring in the captain of an Argentine team to, in his 30s to come and sort of hold that spot could be really interesting. That's probably more for a newcomer though. Okay. That's all of our player awards. Did we mention Roldan and Kubas? Like we should just, those guys, the
obvious ones. Yeah. They deserve mentions, the two of them, because they were both so excellent last year. It felt too obvious to choose either of them to be the winner of this extra time award. But nobody here would be shocked if at the end of the season we're like, man, Andres Cubas is amazing, or Christian Roldan is the best central midfielder in the league. And like you look at it, like Christian Roldan was meaningfully better than Obed Vargas last year, and Obed Vargas has instantly walked into Atletico Madrid's central midfield rotation and is taking minutes from guys who we would all be like, holy shit, if MLS
Rodrigo de Paul coming to MLS.
Right, yeah. So it's like, okay, You can use the transitive property a little bit here to understand how good these guys are.
Okay, so off the field, coach of the year. This one's tough to do in advance. You kind of have to predict where you think teams fall in the standings, why, how they're affected. To me, the obvious one out the gate is BJ Callahan. If Nashville takes the jump we think they're going to take, even with the addition of Espinoza, I think a lot of it's going to be put at his feet. If they play the soccer we think they're going to play, I think they're going to be darlings for a lot of people to watch week in and week out. And then I think a lot of the success is tied to what I said at the top of the show, what he brings, why he's connected to this team, all of that stuff. So that's my early vote or my prediction. Where did you go?
Yeah, I think BJ's a favorite because I think they'll go from 52 points to like 64 this year, and a lot of that will be Christian Espinoza, but also like they're just going to be really really good, and that should not be ignored. And also, there's no guarantee that if you just add talent, you become a better team. And it takes some coaching, it takes some man management in the locker room, and I think everything I've heard is that BJ is really really good at that.
And just I'll say this: the conversation what I think will happen, which I think we will be pretty on top of because I'm saying it right now, is if they shift all the way to the way he wants to play and Espinoza fits, it is that he had the restraint to slowly do it and not just, okay, tomorrow we're going to do this and then we're going to ship points for the next 6 months and then we'll figure it out. Like he has gradually brought them there, and it is in a place I think that the team has never been in. Even at their success, Nashville's never played this soccer. So that I think will be a large part of it as well.
Yeah. The other one, look, it would be a really good story if Brian Schmetzer finally won, and Sounders fans get all pissy about the fact that he's never won and never came all that close. It's like, yeah, it's a regular season award. The Sounders do not have great regular seasons.
Did you hear me get yelled at by the Lobbying Scorchers and Jeremiah on this?
I missed that actually.
On our interview with them for our preview, I've a couple of the teams I've done. What's sort of the national narrative thing that you're annoyed about or you want to talk about?
Oh my God, I bet they're insufferable.
No, they actually, no one went straight to like complaining about deep cut Sounders fans who complain about Rusnak, and he's like, they actually underrate him, which wasn't the question. But the main one they said was, stop saying Seattle will contend for the Shield. They won't. They don't care. It's not what they do. Don't think you're going to say it into existence because it won't happen. Because
I'm changing my pick. The Seattle Sounders are going to win the Supporter Shield this year.
Why? Why won't they? Because they're going to try and win Leagues Cup. They're going to try and win CONCACAF. Like, what they do is play hard in every game. It's impossible to do across, what do we think they probably end up at, 45 games?
45, 50, yeah. They
were
in
all
50
competitions
this past year, I think.
And they are so good at it that they kind of know, well, we'll get there in the playoffs and then we'll sort of be that tournament team. Like, because they're good at Leagues Cup, they are good at the playoffs. It obviously didn't work out perfectly for them last year, but like they lost in penalty kicks. Like that happens sometimes. I think I ended the show saying it again, and they were like, stop saying this. It's not going to happen. So back to the Schmetzer conversation.
No, if it does happen, right, if they end up on 70 points, and to be clear, I think they have the talent to end up on 70 points. Brian Schmetzer winning a coach of the year would be a sort of a really nice, it's not exactly the cherry on top of the sundae because it's not the last thing that he needs to do, but like it would be a nice sort of commendation for a guy who is top 3 coach in MLS history if you look at the overall scope of his career, and it's on the table, man. Like maybe it makes more sense this year to focus more on league play and on winning a second Supporter Shield than it does on leaving everything on the line for CCL title. I don't know.
I am interested to see where we end up with Mark Dos Santos, which is this, like, it could be plug and play. LAFC, they're always good. They're always top 3. They're top 3. Like, there could be a version where everyone just skips past him. There's also a version where if the style changes a bunch, but the success remains, we all fall in love with it, which is funny because the results will probably be similar to what they were, especially in the regular season. I think the effect there would probably be more knockouts of you're more dangerous in knockout games because you can control the game. And when teams bunker on you, you're able to break it down. But I don't know that we'll see that over the course of the season. But that will be another big one to have. I'd be surprised if San Diego and Philly pushed at a level that they did last year, that those two in Mikey Varas and Bradley Carnell are really eligible for this again, because now the mark is, well, what you did last year.
Yeah.
And it will be pretty tough for Jesper Sorensen again to do well enough compared to last year for him to win this type of award, because my theory would be the way Sorensen wins it is he wins MLS Cup, which is after the voting, because that's the only difference between last year and this year.
Yeah. Is there a world where Javier Mascherano wins?
I don't think so.
It would have to be like 80 points and a messy injury.
Yeah.
You know,
they have to be so much. They have to be so much better than everyone else that it's like it ends up being everything is a Miami award, because otherwise people are not going to give him the credit for this team being good last year and then getting better with with such a change in personnel. So I find it hard to believe that most people would give the credit to him specifically. On the other side, I don't really know who votes on this thing, so maybe enough people that only watch Miami vote, and he ends up being the front runner the entire year because that's who everyone was going to vote for. Anyway, okay, a couple of the more ambiguous ones. We've got comeback, newcomer, and Goss theorem. Comeback is the least interesting one to me, and I think you did it in your article.
I did. I always vote for guys who are coming back from an injury.
Yeah,
I don't vote like the buddy of mine,
Ben Bear, baby.
Yeah, right.
Coming back from being trash. Is that
yeah,
what
I don't vote for guys who
the no
coming
trash
back
award.
a good year after a bad year. It's always coming back from an injury. There's a lot of guys: Jordan Morris, Hassani Dotson for the Sounders, Kelvin Yeboah for Minnesota, and Minnesota's going to play this year. It's not just going to be rugby. So I'm like, I think he could end up having a really good season. Rudy Camacho, he's the starter for Columbus again. He missed like everything last year. So he's an obvious one.
He's also never played well without playing for Nancy like in his entire career. Right. He's like 35. So it would be huge if he was good.
It would be very big. So there's some choices, but this isn't, to me, this isn't a particularly interesting topic.
My nerd one is Ted Kuti Pietro coming back full year, put some numbers down, and he gets there. Let's do newcomer. I've talked about Goss theorem a couple times already, so I could throw some names out there, but let's do newcomer here, which is sort of the big moves of the offseason. James Rodriguez is going to have his convos. Eustachio as well. Both of them, I think, would have to play the full season for it to hit and for that to matter. I think we both kind of feel it's unlikely with James that he plays for this team in August. So he'd have to put up, 15 and 10 in the first half of the season to win this award. But he'll be a vibe. He'll be fun. We'll talk about League Pass in just a second. Where did you sort of lean on the newcomer side?
I mean, Eustachio is the one who popped to mind first, because I think he is going to have that measurable effect on how LAFC play. But Herman Berterame is probably going to score a bunch of goals. And voters tend to notice that. Tom's super draft or golden boot draft pick, Josh Sargent, if he ends up playing in MLS this year and scores,
Emily, we apologize for the broken window that just occurred in your home when Tom heard that and just threw a phone for no reason.
That's a guy who could end up winning it, but there's not a ton of right. Like,
it doesn't feel like the money has been spent on big money has been spent on names. Can I
draft Dallas's DP number 10? That's my pick. That's my draft pick, Tom.
and it's one of those things where it's like, well, so does a Mateusz Bogusz count in this? No. They have to be new to the league,
and neither does Mamadou Fall.
Okay, so that's part of it, and the other part is I think guys where even if they have a good year, it's really in service to the other players around them. If Ruval Kaba has a big year, you're going to see it on Choupo-Moting and Forsberg stats. It's not really going to be him as much. And so it doesn't feel like the huge names, even though there have been big money spent on some big names and a ton of movement. Facundo Torres, not available, not new. I guess we should throw Timo Werner in. Like we had that conversation towards the top. If he scores X goals.
If he's like 16 goals and 9 assists, then he'll be in the conversation for sure.
Yeah. And I would say a lot of teams have done some work to close out last year, even like a nerd of a Kenji Cabrera or something like that. Those were all moves that already happened that now they're settling in. Ekanike, guys like that, Samuel Gidi, they don't have the ability to do this. But I think those are going to be these are the big ads for these clubs that have come in. So I don't see like a ton of other obvious names. Bertarame is the big one who will put up numbers and has come into this league. On the Goss Theorem side, a lot of the names then that I just mentioned, I think I put Veld as my one. I think this guy's going to like take scalps throughout the season.
So here's the question, and I'm going to shout out Paul Harvey, who does really great work for American Soccer Analysis for this one. He doesn't think that Velt should be eligible because even though the dude could not put the ball in the back of the net until the playoffs, his underlying numbers were overwhelmingly positive. Like it wouldn't actually be Goss theorem. It would be more like Denny Bwanga from 2022 when he came in the final 7 games of that season. I was joking about how he's the worst finisher in the league, and like the LAFC's
how'd that one work out for you?
It was a joke. Like anybody who looked at the underlying numbers could say, "Oh, this guy's going to be a monster. This guy is going to be like a really, really good player in this league." And like it might apply here to Christopher Velda.
Okay, first of all, nerds, get off my lawn and chill with that. Second of all, I think that's part of it, which is the pressure and and some of the changes of the speed of the game and the shape stops you from performing at your best when you first get here. And so, yes, he got himself into those spots, but he didn't finish the chances. If he does now, what's the difference is how he has settled, how he fully understands his role in the team and his comfort in those big moments. So that to me is where it matters. And I understand the idea of like someone being completely out of the game because they fully don't understand the league and then developing forward. But if you go from incapable of finishing to finishing a lot, that feels like you've understood how it works a little bit and you've settled in and gotten comfortable, and that goes straight to what the theorem exists on.
Yeah. Same for Bruno Damiani, who was my pick. You know, he knew where the goal was last year and he just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net consistently enough. There was one other that
someone just asked me if I have a lawn in Arizona. I don't know how I became the Arizona guy, but I love it.
Two others actually. Jonathan Bamba.
That's the clear one to me as well.
And Emmanuel Latelat. And I haven't heard overwhelmingly great things about either in this preseason, I got to tell you.
Yeah. So. The expectation from Bamba should be that it's there, that all of it's built around what he does well, that it's very similar to last year. So you had a full year to figure it out, learn, and all of that. And if you can't do it now, then it's probably never really going to happen for you. And that's a huge issue for Chicago with as much as they invested. You could go get Bamba's production from an MLS veteran right now with the way it's at, and you could not spend DP money and you could do it. They might actually have done that in Robin Ludd and like be in the same position. So there are other players out there who can do it with him. That's a quick short list of some of the names. What's it called? Wow. NYCFC, young attacker, joined last year.
Nico Fernandez Mercado?
Yeah, that would be one as well on the newcomer.
Yeah, he's not a Goss theorem guy. He was awesome.
Fair. He was good last year. He'll be great this year as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit of team awards or team conversations for us. Not awards. Some of the ones I wanted to do were expectations of biggest jump, biggest fall off for teams. And I want to talk league pass teams, like especially these first 2-3 weeks. I think there are a number of teams where it's like, I can't wait to see what this looks like. And my hope is a couple of those teams land to what it was last year, which was 2 weeks in. It was like, you have to watch San Diego, right? When Nancy got to Columbus, it's like, you got to watch this team play. Like, I don't care who they're playing. I don't care what time it is. That's the soccer that I want to watch. And I think there's going to be a number of those teams. Let's start on the league pass side. So like, who are you stoked to tune into? What are you locked in for week 1 of can't wait to see how it goes down and expectations that will be fun?
Cincinnati. I like the talent there is so overwhelming. They've done such a good job of putting this roster together, and it didn't click last year. And I have my theories as to why that is. And Cincy fans are some of them are being, I think, pretty stupid in the way they're talking about Pat Noonan. Like, it's pretty well established Pat Noonan is a really good coach. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have figured out. I mean, their underlying numbers were terrible last season. I can't imagine it happening that way again. And then there's like, God, if that spark of magic between Denke and Evander, if they can find that, then suddenly this is like one of the most entertaining teams in North America.
Yeah. That's one I agree. Locked in, want to see how it looks. If it starts flowing and like the goals start to look easy for those two and the wing backs are attacking and all of that, then it's like, yeah, this is what we thought. They were the second best team in the league last year. And if they play like it, then it becomes really impressive and fun to watch. And I think in Lucho's best times, they were very fun to watch.
Yeah.
Right. Some of these games that were open, 5-3 games, big comebacks, like all this type of stuff that they were capable of. I think a lot of that stems off what Pat Noonan builds culturally and what they're capable of doing. I think Chicago's on my list.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
If it all hits, I think it could be really, really fun. In possession, I think they could be dangerous in transition. I think you could like have really entertaining games for them. And I want to see, early on, are they a top 4 team in the East? Like I think that's on the table and should be expected. And that's a huge question mark. Some of the ones that I don't know that I'm curious on, the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like
I'm afraid they're going to be a little boring. I thought Justin Hack was going to be there to be a center back, but it looks like he's playing in a double sixes with Cerrillo in a 4-2-3-1. And like, look, if Ricky Pooch was healthy, then I'd be like, okay, kind of worth it. But I don't know. Like, I'm worried. Like Eric Talmy is not Ricky Pooch, and neither is 38-year-old Marco Royce, and I'm worried that it could be a little bit disappointing.
And then like, if that's what ends up happening, you're playing higher up the field. Can Peck and Payne still take apart teams that are in a deeper block? Because that was a huge part of the issue. You couldn't get them into the transition moments, and they showed their limitations against set teams. But that's one where it's like, I'm locked in. I can't wait to see how it looks. Obviously, James Rodriguez in Minnesota. I don't know when he will starting. I don't know how many minutes we're going to get out the gate. I'd be surprised if there's a minute James Rodriguez plays for Minnesota that I don't consume this year. Like I still have chills when I think of the goal against Uruguay in 2014. There's a number, for some reason, that Colombian generation has that. I have a Juanfer Quintero jersey in here. Like, I love a lot of these players. I have no idea what it looks like. I think the expectation that he's going to crush is intense from some people who are like, of course, baller, done. But then there's also a chance that that's all true.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see 2 head coaches. Tata, if he can resurrect that Atlanta United, honestly, the entire organization at this point.
Yeah. But move on to the other one, because I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Revs?
No.
Oh.
I'm going to say Red Bulls. I think Michael Bradley's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And his dad is one of the greatest soccer coaches in MLS and U.S. soccer history. And what Bob was really great at and never got enough credit for was like granular improvement. I think Bobby was talking about this on a Soccer Wiser last month. Is like helping players improve on like a really granular level. And I imagine Michael's going to be the same way. And like he did really good work with Red Bull 2 in half a season. And look, man, that club needs something. They need some kind of signs of life. And I'm hoping that they get it from the new head coach, at least in part.
Zippy Tuna said, can't wait for the quote, feel better than Michael quote from Schmetzer. That's such class. That's such a good line. I'll throw out that last one then, which is the Revs. A lot of returning pieces, change shifted, a ton of young former U.S. internationals or current U.S. internationals. They also have a robust academy that has been tapped into on and off. Obviously, Caleb hates it, but Bruce was oddly open to it and helped build it. And to go along with some of the players that I like to watch, I think Tugerman's going to score a bunch of goals. Campagna is genuinely in the conversation for a World Cup spot on a team that I think will not only qualify out of the group stage, I think could be the dark horse of the World Cup. So he's got a ton of pressure and opportunity.
And he's been awesome in preseason.
Golden Boot winner of the preseason. And there's a bunch of Luca Langoni. Like there's a bunch of talent in this team. I don't know how it all fits. I don't know how it all goes together. A little bit of unsure stuff right now with Ceballos. I think he's having trouble getting his family into the country. So there's conversations about Colombian teams reaching out for him, but it seems like the Revs are at least going to hold on for now and try and help him.
Brian Bilello gave the team president gave an interview with Blazing Musket, who does fantastic work covering all soccer in New England, not just the Revs, saying that Ceballos was never for sale. Like he's going to be back this year.
But the offers are real, and I think that's the background of the offers. Is there's a belief maybe he wants to leave. But I like that center back pairing. Obviously, Turner going to be super entertaining to watch. Interesting. So the Revs are one for me as well early in the season where it's like, okay, was it a culture? Like, did you fix stuff from last year? It's really interesting to try and fix a culture without fixing pretty much any of the players, but just one person. But it's obviously a really important person for things. Okay, let's go biggest jump up into the season, jump off. I was just doing a little Joe Budden. And then biggest fall off. Which one do you want to start? Positive or negative?
Let's start positive.
Yeah, let's do it.
People are going to shame me for this if I'm wrong, but I think it's the Quakes. The Quakes they played like a 55-point team last year. They just sucked in their own box, right? Like Daniel had a shocker. Anytime Earl Edwards was out there, it was 4 goals for the opponent. Like, and I'm frankly kind of shocked that they haven't addressed the goalkeeper situation. Even with that, I expect massive improvement from those young center backs. I think they'll go to a 4, and they'll have Ronaldo Vieira for a full year. I expect a huge jump from Shakiris. I think Timo Werner is going to be good. And Bruce just knows how to get teams to play. They were a better team than their record last year. I think they're going to play closer to their underlying numbers this year. And that could mean, in the Western Conference, it's not very scary right now. 50-plus points feels like it's on the table for San Jose.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Revs. Everything I just said, I'm going to believe in a chunk of it. I think the talent's there. I think the fix works. The other obvious is the wrong phrase to use. The Galaxy seemed like a clear one of like, there's just no world in which they go 0-14 to start a year. And so the point, even if the points per game ends up being not that far off from what it was last year, the second half of the year, the points jump would have been massive if that was a full year. They're better to start this year. It feels like they have a clear idea without Ricky, like having an identity that's not just Marco Reus will be Ricky, because he's not. But I'm going to go with the Revs because I trust. Listen, if I'm not going to trust a former U.S. Youth National Team coach who's worked around the first team and come into an MLS team and has a distinct style and a clear idea at this point, I don't know when I'm going to. So I'm going to choose to believe in a lot of that stuff for the Revs and believe in the jump that comes for them. Then
the other one is Atlanta.
Yeah.
28 points. That's not a 28-point team.
Yeah.
I
don't know what that team is.
Yeah.
That is a crazy
so I'm looking
team.
forward to watching them.
And then the fall off on the other side. The clear ones are what I said with Coach of the Year. It's Philly and San Diego. They could both have great years and have clear point drops just because they were so good last year. But I'm going to go with Minnesota of just a complete change. You can say you want to change the style a little. If you don't change the personnel a ton, I think a lot of those players wanted to play more like this last year, but I don't know that they can at a really high level. And then you've got the James thing thrown in. How long does it take to get him there? How much is built around him? If he doesn't come back, how big of an effect does that have? There's just so many question marks in this team. I think Cam Knowles will be a coach in MLS for a long time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does well. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go great and he gets another job. Like, I've spoken with him. I've covered his next pro teams. Like, I think he's an MLS head coach. I just think it's a really tough job to come into. Eric Ramsey would have struggled with it.
Yeah, I just hope that he's given adequate time, because this is a huge adjustment that is being made for a team that doesn't really have a culture of developing players and fitting pieces in and all that. And like, they're trying to do all of it at once, and it's more than a 1-year job. And I know that's a weird thing to say because they were just a 58-point team, but like, that team is gone. Like, those players are gone. So they're the obvious one to me for a big drop off. The other is Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Freeman was a huge part of that last year. He's gone. Robin Janssen is already hurt. Rodrigo Schlegel, the legend, is gone. I thought the easy place to upgrade was goalkeeper. And first, they did it by signing Carlos Coronel, and then he left them at the altar. And now they have Maxime Crépeau, who, to me, isn't a starting caliber goalkeeper in MLS. It's unclear if they're going to be able to win the ball defensively. They really struggled with that when Cesar Araujo wasn't on the field last year. He's gone. Their best moments last year came when Luis Muriel was, got on that little hot streak. He's gone. Martin Ojeda was awesome last year. I think he's a really good player. Do I think he's a 30 goal contributions player? I don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's
the underlyings on Pasalic are not great either. A lot of goals from distance that are not super repeatable, even if you're good at it. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks in there. It would be wild if this kid Igor and Thiago hit, and it was like that's where they maintain the level, because the assumption is that both of them are going to start, which is what Mike Spillane talked to us about. That was perfectly timed, though, because we actually had someone in the chat say, do a, quote, most mid segment so we could talk about Orlando. Then you proceeded to put them into the bad conversation. So it worked out really well for Orlando fans. For anyone else in the middle who's thinking, oh, you haven't talked about us as much, that's why I want to do every game this on Thursday. We will do a mention of every single team so we could talk about them a little bit going into the weekend. I think there's some fascinating stuff with NYCFC. I think there's some interesting conversations around some of the teams in the middle, Austin, Dallas, Portland, all these teams that we maybe haven't spent as much time on here, which probably won't be as much the outlier teams, although there could be a couple negative ones in there that I just said. NYCFC, if they had gotten the Sila deal over, just to have the work done, would have been that to me would have been one of the most interesting teams coming into the year. Talk about, big jumps. There isn't a huge points there. They're not going to go over 65, so there's not that much. But I think Pascal Jansen's as good as anyone in MLS. I think there's a lot that's already built. But striking out on your DP right at the final sort of whistle of the transfer window, and then we don't know what's next with them, and having Alonso Martinez out, although great odds to win the Golden Boot if you want them, and you go through some of the betting parlors which we were looking through to see what's out there earlier, then you can get those as well. Okay, most of our convo there. Doyle, anything I missed?
No, I think we hit it all.
Hell yes. We are ready for the season to kick off. We will be on Blue Sky tonight and every night this week, talking through all the CCC games, CCL games. So you can hit us up there. We have all of our previews already out there on YouTube, so you can go watch them. We'll roll a bunch of them out in our podcasts. We've got a really fun conversation about the future of NWSL and youth development with the GM of Racing Louisville that we're going to be rolling out there tomorrow as we start our NWSL season previews. We're going to be doing an interview across most of the teams in the league, and then our big interview or our big previews as we did last year with Lori Lindsay and Jill Lloyden. So I'm really excited about those. And then we'll be back to talk MLS. We're going to be back every Monday early for you so that we can get you your weekend recap as soon as possible, but we'll put out all those details and some big other news going on around soccer-wise and everything we're doing. So subscribe to Doyle's newsletter. Subscribe to all the other things we talked about in this show. Backheeled, if you can, spend a Patreon on American Soccer Analysis for all the work they do to keep it going. And looking forward to the season. The games are finally here. You can hear us stop pontificating about what we think will happen and hear us pontificate about what we think is happening. It's the exact opposite. So thank you to all of you who are in the chat live with us. Thank you to you, Doyle. Thank you to Tommy Scoops for being out there and giving us a ride at all times.